Welcome back to episode 3 of the Transfer Files, the podcast where we talk all things file transfer, security, supply chain, automation, and more. My name is Steph Johnson, and today James Lewis and I will be getting into one of the most pressing issues businesses are facing today, supply chain security. Please do remember to hit subscribe, and we hope you enjoy the episode. James, episode 3. How are we feeling?
We're feeling good.
Feeling
Been to
good.
the gym this morning. Feeling great.
Lovely.
Could do with some more coffee, but you know.
How many coffees have you had already?
Just 2. Have you noticed something?
Are you going to say we're matching?
We're twinning, yeah.
We've done 3 episodes now and
I
we
know.
are in sync.
We are. Got like a little bit of... Anyway, let's not go there. Right.
Shall we?
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about, and obviously for my benefit, I don't get into this so much for the day-to-day, but we're going to be talking about supply chain and the supply chain security.
Sure.
And the increased scrutiny that it is facing currently has been very top of mind lately in news articles. But for my benefit and for many people that probably don't think twice about what's going on in the industry supply chain, obviously there's people that are involved actively day-to-day. I know yourself, you are very much involved in what goes on day-to-day in terms of supply chain. But are you able to explain exactly what we mean when we talk about supply chain in the context of file transfer?
I certainly can. Right. So a supply chain generally starts with something like raw materials and ends up with products that's been purchased. And in between, there's lots of different organizations that are either adding value or moving those products around. Well, I guess they could be services as well. Generally speaking, when it comes to either making these things or procuring these things, files, data, invoices, purchase orders, things are moved around between different suppliers in a supply chain. So when it comes to the files aspect of it, it's typically to do with, I want to order 1,000, to use an expression from Glyn and Bibbly Bob's, one of my colleagues. I want 1,000 of these delivered by Tuesday so that I can make X, Y, Z thing. And then there's the toing and froing of transactional information largely.
It's fascinating. Like you, typically day to day, you don't consider how much goes into transferring a file, for example, or within that supply chain. It's definitely goes over my head sometimes.
Well, on the retail side, it gets a lot more complicated. We're not going to dive into EDI, but that is a whole level of complication with regards to the transactional messages that go to and fro for one order. It gets a lot more complicated, but well, that's another conversation for another episode, maybe.
And I'm guessing potentially it's not just your internal supply chain you need to consider. When you are working with people outside of your business, do you need to consider their supply chains as well?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, we may as well dive into both those things. So there's the internal supply chain, so the movement of data around inside your organization, which MFT solutions are well known for supporting the security position and ensuring compliance for moving data around inside an organization. The same can be said with moving outside of the organization and the broader supply chain. So I think where we're getting to from a security perspective, and I think the things that are evolving most quickly is that there are lots of breaches. There's lots of news on an almost daily basis of organizations that have been hacked or targeted. And organizations now are looking to take a much more proactive approach to ensuring that, one, their organization and their perimeter is secured, but also who is in their supply chain and are they offering a sufficient enough level of security so that, me, the end user, the customer, isn't impacted through my supply chain. But that's a conscious decision for me moving data to you securely, and similarly you sending it back to me. But the next extension to that would be, once the data is with you, is it still then secure? And in auditing, and this goes a bit broader than the file transfer piece, but auditing the security posture of your supply chain in terms of the whole of the organization. It's where things like ISO 27001 come into to ensuring that you're working with the right sort of organizations.
Yeah, no, definitely. And in terms of what's driving the scrutiny, do you think it is largely the breaches that we are continuing to hear about all the time?
So what's driving the scrutiny is, I guess, yes, a number of the breaches that are getting publicity in the marketplace, and organizations, and specifically publicly traded organizations, not wanting to be seen to be behind the curve or shutting the gate after the horse is bolted. So it's a case of making sure that they've got not just the right technology or the product, but they've got the right services that sit around that as a solution for that part of the supply chain, the movement of data between the organization and their trading partners.
Yeah. And when it comes to, again, talking about back to breaches, looking outside of file transfer for a minute and at the broader IT space, there, as you say, there's never not a story probably in the news that isn't talking about a breach. And I did do some homework, and I have some notes from a couple of breaches that have sort of in the last 5 years or so, and just some of the impacts that they've had, because actually it doesn't just come down to an internal IT concern. There's legal and financial and all sorts of damages that happen from a breach. Obviously, most recently, M&S was a major one in the news, and that was a hack from the ransomware gang, correct me if I'm wrong, Scattered Spider?
May well have been.
So Scattered Spider, and in terms of the repercussions of that, it halted online orders for nearly 2 months, estimated to have lost the company up to £300 million in lost profits and 3.8 million in daily sales losses. That's just talking about M&S's losses. It doesn't talk about everyone else that's inside their supply chain that supplies to the company. Co-op was, again, Scattered Spider at the same time of M&S, but they lost or had 6.5 million of their customer data records stolen. Qantas, the same again, Scattered Spider, 5.7 million customer records stolen. And then going back a few years, a company called Knights of the Old in June 2023, a ransomware group called Akira, they gained access through a weak password, which is assumed to be an employee's weak password.
Okay.
Password 1234. But that company was actually forced into administration. So because of the breach,
Ouch.
shut down. SolarWinds, that breach was in 2020, and they injected malicious code into software, which enabled them to compromise customers using the software, including industries of government agencies and private companies. So that's quite important.
SolarWinds, my friends. Not the biggest of fans of their technology, but that's another conversation.
We'll move on. Colonial Pipeline 2021 disrupted the supply of gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel along the US East Coast. Major impact. Facebook 2021, I never heard about this and I'm a Facebook user, but they had a breach which exposed the phone numbers, email addresses, and other personal information of 530 million Facebook users. Some of these went under the radar, especially before I was in the world of file transfer.
Yeah.
But, I mean, these breaches are happening every day.
Yeah, so there's various different types of breaches, and I'm not a broad technologist. I know a lot about managed file transfer, and not a lot else when it comes to technology. And luckily enough, we've got some great technical people around us to do the delivery of the solutions. But I mean, in recent times, a number of the MFT vendors, platforms themselves have been targeted from the point of view of being identified as a weak point in that supply chain, and a number of breaches, very well publicised breaches, have happened as a consequence. And interestingly, before we came in today, I noticed in the news that one of the vendors have just settled. It's gone through the courts, and a Microsoft subsidiary has just received 8.5 million in damages for the loss of 1.2 million data records. So getting this wrong can be pretty expensive, and I know financial risk and reputation is one of those things high on the list.
Yeah. And it's not something that I imagine is ever going to go away. It's only just going to not get stronger, but get more challenging as technology develops. Ransomware groups aren't going anywhere.
Well, it's the financial gain, the potential of selling this data on the dark web, and then those organisations that acquire it, both steal it and acquire it, and making use of it, and the financial gains they can generate from the stolen data. So not only are the end users impacted, but also those organisations that have been breached. And I guess it brings you on to sort of the reputational damage in your supply chain. If you mentioned that organisation, I forget which one it was that went into administration.
Knights of the Old.
Yeah, you only need to have one big breach that you really don't want to be in the news.
No.
That can result in the supply chain around you closing down and saying we don't want to work with you anymore.
It happens.
If you've not been careful enough with their data, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess my next question is how does then a secure managed file transfer system help this, and how does it play into almost protecting the supply chain?
It protects part of it. It can't protect all of the supply chain. MFT solutions are one of those things that moves data, as we've talked about, moves data between organizations securely. And the key thing is, and a lot of times what we find with organizations, rightly or wrongly, largely wrongly, is that they sit in the background. They continue to process data as part of a business process. And whilst things are going well, nobody's looking at it.
Hunky-dory.
And also, MFT is one of those types of technologies that sort of falls between the gaps in a lot of organizations. It has networking, it has enterprise architects involved with it, people that are involved with authentication, people are involved with databases. There's lots of functions within a technical department that are integral to making sure that it's put in properly in the first place. And then who picks it up and runs with it afterwards can sometimes be a little bit of a hot potato. Now, I say that because if it's running in the background and it's doing its job and it's processing data, but it's not being given the due care and attention that it needs, then the likelihood is that the software patches are not being updated on it. It's not conforming to best practices, which means then you become a weak link in your supply chain. And that's an area that's being one, from a CIO's perspective, should be high on their agenda. Certainly an enterprise architect should be looking at this sort of stuff. Some of the more cutting edge types of technology in this space are now looking at and have capability built in to audit the supply chain. So on the assumption that you're not the weak link, it looks at how your supply chain is transferring data to you. So what encryption algorithms are they using? What's the authentication processes that they're using? And are these modern and secure enough, or have they been deprecated and been breached in the past, and therefore no longer appropriate to use? So it's really important that organisations keep on top of ensuring that their products are sort of kept up to date. One, have a product, and two, make sure it's kept up to date.
Yeah, and I guess just on that point, it's not a case of you can't be in your organization. It's not okay, we've got a file transfer solution, yeah, we're fine. It's actually, you need to support this and you need to make sure it's up to date, because if you don't, you're not, it's not what's the phrase where it's not when, it's not if, it's when it's going to breach it. If you don't support it and keep up to date with it and keep on top of training and someone dedicated to looking after it, you're on the back foot already.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the other thing is making sure that in the event that you are taking a proactive approach to securing your data, and we talked about this in the last couple of episodes, it's about the consolidation piece. A lot of times organizations have multiple solutions to do the same thing. So you have data ingress and egress out of an organization into an organization through multiple, let's call them portals or gateways. If there isn't a level of visibility over what's happening with each of those, then it increases exponentially or decreases your security posture and increases your likelihood of being hacked or breached. Our position is always, certainly wherever possible, is consolidate all of these tools, that you may have had for 5, 10, 15, 20 years in some instances, put them all into one solution, use best practice, making sure that everything's kept up to date, and lean on people that are experts. Shameless plug again.
I mean, it sounds like a ticking time bomb if it's not set up and supported correctly. Now, the younger generation of today talk about red flags. Have you heard the term red flags?
I have.
You've got red flags, you've got green flags.
I have. Yeah, my kids watch Love Island.
In terms of red flags, what should organizations, whether it's CEOs, CISOs, or team leaders or head of IT infrastructure, what should they be looking for within their processes and within their team? And if they spot a red flag, what are some concerns that if they see that, they need to act and put something into place?
Well, going back to my point about it falling between the cracks or being a hot potato, I think first and foremost, there needs to be somebody who's responsible for it. It sits within their remit, and in the event that something happens, heads roll. I mean, hopefully not physically, but somebody has the responsibility to keep an eye on this type of technology. You have a network security specialist that's looking at firewalls and that sort of thing. You have a database administrator and experts that look after the databases. You really need somebody that is ultimately responsible for the movement of data into and out of your organization. If you don't have someone, then for me that's a red flag. If you, at the very least, again, shameless plug, you don't have somebody you can call upon who's an expert in this space, then you're decreasing your security posture some more. Other red flags for me is not knowing what data is going in and out of your business, and certainly what data is going in and out of certain processes. So it could well be that the systems have been set up to move data from an internal file share to HSBC Bank, so that all of the suppliers are paid on a weekly basis. Now, if somebody isn't aware of the context of that file transfer and the security profile of the transfers and the encryption is not kept up to date, then for me that's a red flag that some of the most financially sensitive data and that sort of thing, if an organization doesn't know where their most sensitive data is going to and from, or which processes is moving it, then for me that's another really big issue.
Just a few red flags there to watch out for.
When it comes to cybersecurity and supply chain risk, I mean, again, coming back to the Kings of Leon? No,
Knights of the Old.
Knights of the Old, nearly the same. Then an organisation can go out of business within a very short period of time. You can't not pay attention to this sort of thing.
You can't. What is the, I guess, biggest takeaway someone watching or listening should take away with them today?
If you don't put time and effort into knowing your supply chain, you live by the sword and die by the sword, I guess, to continue with the knight's analogy. I think the most important thing is to understand in terms of your own, so there'll be two. So in terms of your own system, understanding what's going through it, understanding each of the processes that are taking place and attributing some sort of description to it. It is moving payroll data from here to here, and then I would probably give those different processes a different score in terms of their priority inside a business. But the fundamental flip side to that is auditing your supply chain, understanding that all of your suppliers that are moving data to and from can be the weakest link for you, and it's really important that you understand what it is that they're using to exchange data with you and that it is sufficiently secure.
That's great. There's some great takeaways there, I think, James. Supply chain risk isn't going to go anywhere. As I said, technology is only going to continue to grow and get smarter and...
Go back to the AI thing, aren't you?
I know, yeah.
Don't worry about the AI thing. But it's an area for increased concern for organisations. For organisations that are really considered about their supply chain and their longevity.
It's always going to be there.
I think it's something to pay attention to.
Well, thank you.
Thank you as well, Twin.
Episode 3 is that?
It is, yes.
Wonderful. We have something very excited for. We have a special guest next episode.
We do.
We do. Looking forward to that.
Let's go.
Thank you again, James. And a big thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please remember to hit subscribe. And if you have any questions, please do reach out to our team. We will make sure we leave the contact details in the notes below. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.